Hola everybody, this is Ray Flip, television beat writer for Bleeding Cool, welcoming you back again to our weekly recap of NBC's AP Bio, starring It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia's Glenn Howerton and Happy's Patton Oswalt. And we are taking a look at the first season's 10th episode, Durbin Crashes. And I'm going to tell you honestly, the episode was like a tale of two episodes. Probably the best way for me to describe it is it was cruising at a 5. I was going to say it wasn't the worst episode of the season, but it was leaving me kind of a little disappointed. But then around the halfway point, and especially towards the end, it just started hitting on some points that really actually ended up making me like the episode when all was said and done. I made it a reference earlier, and if you read the beginning of the post, you'll see I referenced The Odd Couple, because that was my biggest concern. It's, the premise is the basic idea that, Durbin is very controlled by his wife, and he wants to watch a show called Wyoming that everybody else at work watches, but he's behind on because his wife doesn't like how he acts when he watches it. So he thinks he gets advice from Jack, but Jack is too busy trying to be the shoulder for Meredith to lean on so he can get her and her boyfriend to break up, and so they can be together. So Durbin misinterprets some texting, vocalizing for advice, and Durbin ends up getting kicked out and ends up having to stay with Jack. And again, that's where my concern was with the whole Odd Couple thing. I love the way that part really worked out, actually, because we get to see Jack, again, obviously he tries to pan Durbin off on anybody at school who will take him, but there's a very funny part where Mary's just like, Durbin's giving off these weird sexual pheromones, so I really don't want him around. It was a very good point. But we see Jack trying to get Durbin back together with his wife, who's played by Angela Kinsey from The Office, who's just, in the brief moments she's in this episode, just really great. But what I liked about it was, very early on, you see Jack realizes, oh my God, there's just no way. I can't be this guy. There's no way I can have Durbin go back to him. And there's just this really great moment that I think sold the whole storyline to me, is they're back at Jack's place towards the end, and Jack is saying to him, like, no, you can't. I'm sorry. If you got to stay here a few more days, you can't go back to her. And there's a moment where Durbin says, we're both pieces of work, aren't we? And Jack's like, what are you talking about? And Durbin just, in a moment of really being a real person, he says, like, hey, at least my relationship was real. You have this one-sided fascination, weird thing going on. And there's just this moment where Jack is just kind of staring at him, and he gets a little glassy-eyed. And I give Glenn Howerton a lot of credit for that moment. And he just, instead of snapping and being snarky, he says to Durbin, like, no, thanks. Not so much thanks, but, I like this color on you, Durbs. Looks good on you. And there was just this really nice bonding moment, and Durbin realizes, maybe I overstepped my bounds, but it just was a really nice progression, because I was getting tired of seeing the same old, Jack's just going to use Durbin, Durbs just trying to get on Jack's good side. And I think you saw a nice evolution and progression of their storyline that, again, really was starting off not only very Odd Couple cliched, but also Durbin just really wasn't acting in accordance to how he should be acting. So it kind of threw me a little bit. By the way, on a side note, I'll be utilizing my new Man of Steel book, which is not exactly new. I got this as a birthday present from somebody who I cannot name because they don't like they're being shouted out, but, hey, Brooklyn, top of the food chain. But we go back to our side storyline, because obviously there's still a revenge plot going on for Miles, and that's where I want to make sure this is important, because the kids come up with a great plan. Why not combine revenge with AP Bio? So they basically convince Jack, and like, look, we can create some DNA evidence. We can get him convicted of a crime. We can basically ruin his career. So Jack goes along with it. And then he realizes that they're using this as a ruse to actually learn. And Jack has said from the very beginning, there will be no biology learning in this classroom. Now, again, it's nice to see that Jack has evolved and transitioned a little bit, as long as it suits his own ends. But I thought overall, collectively, as the class, I also thought this was actually a really good episode for them. And I want to make sure I get a couple of the parts right. It's interesting that we see a flashback to the first episode, because the catfishing from the very beginning of the season actually has come into play. What a surprise. Heather has been getting into a very, I'm not sure what the exact wording were, but a very disturbing and complicated relationship with Miles and her fake persona. And somehow in this process and everything else, a body hair, mustache, some type of thing was procured for them to be able to do DNA on. That fascinated me beyond all belief, besides the fact that she also has, I think, a physical hotness attraction for Miles, which could be a very big problem down the road if Jack's going to feel somehow betrayed by his right hand, his Tyrion, Heather. So I'm a little concerned about that. But that was just I thought, really great sequence, and even at the end where they kind of lay it out. The only problem is, of course, the little crazy psychos, they think it's so easy to secure a dead body. But again, like Jack says, Toledo, you never know. Let's not throw away the mustache. You're never quite sure where, a dead body could roll up. So again, I thought that was a good opportunity. It gave a lot of the students in class an opportunity to shine. I think that's probably maybe one of the biggest drawbacks to the show, that we were getting a lot of great characters that aren't getting a lot of opportunity, and my hope the show is that lasts beyond one season, because I think there's a lot of great characters that could deserve at least their own subplots, if not their own episodes. I mean, hell, just from Steph, Mary, and Michelle, Helen, the coach, you got all the kids in the class. I mean, it's rare you got a show that actually has that good of building of ensemble cast. But I would be just lacking if I didn't give my second favorite person on the show, because obviously Heather, props to you, Heather. But Helen. I mean, it's really strong. Strong. Paula Pell, strong. Incredibly strong. There was a hysterical moment where Jack is just proving that he just does not do well against people who are older than him. Where Jack is just giving full body inside of Durbin's office to try to force Helen out. And you can see Helen's almost got that crazy smile, and it's just one-arming it. She's just one-arming it, and Jack's barely able to hold on. And it's just, and the sweetness with which she cares about Durbin. In such a motherly, it's weird, I want to say motherly, but almost in a very big sisterly way. The way she came over to make breakfast, the way she's concerned about him, it's just really, really sweet. And I love that dynamic. Again, if we're talking about episodes, I don't know, a Durbin-Helen road trip episode, Helen Durbin speaking, let's say, before the school board, I would love to see something like that. I think this show has a very strong Parks and Recreation type vibe to it, and a lot of possibilities to it. So I'm hoping that we get some kind of confirmation of my hope is some kind of renewal for second season, which would be great. I know Glenn Howerton is coming back for It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia for some episodes, but it doesn't seem like it's full time. So keep my fingers crossed he can kind of straddle those, because again, Glenn Howerton, I'm a big fan of Patton Oswalt with what he's doing here with Happy. So again, but overall, I would say Durbin Crashes was a solid, strong episode. I would have put it around a 6.5 to 7, creeping closer to 7, just because the first act could have been a lot stronger. That was the only thing I would say was lacking in. But otherwise, that's really where I would put it. Not the strongest episode, but by far not even close to the worst episode. So again, solid, strong outing. Not all of them could be winners per se, but again, I think character development-wise, we got a lot out of this episode. Storyline may be lacking, but I think the Durbin-Jack growth dynamic I thought was excellent. And again, I think just what we saw with the students I thought were fantastic. Again, Heather and Helen, you can't go wrong. Just got to give those two their own show. Again, my name is Ray Fluke. I'm a television beat writer for Bleeding Cool. Thank you guys for joining me for AP Bio. We're going to be having some cool stuff coming up on Sunday for The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead, so please make sure you check out bleedingcool.com for that, and also for all the great stuff we have going on in television, in film, in video games, in toys, and everything else across the pop culture spectrum. And again, just want to say hashtag stand for Stan. Stand for Stan. All right, that's it. Thank you guys for joining me, and I will see you on the inner tubes. Take care.